Now, there's a guy that HLN keeps bringing on to defend people like George Zimmerman and Dunn, who just did the shooting in the loud music case, right? And he's often saying about how blacks are aggressive. In the Michael Dunn case, he said, look, even if these blacks didn't have a weapon, you got to remember that if you're a young black man, you're more prone to violence. So what? That's unbelievable. So like, they had it coming because they were young black men. It was a fair assumption of Dunn to think that, well, if they're black and they're young, I should shoot them before they do anything. What an outrageous guy. Why would you bring that guy back half a dozen times, right? Well, in the Zimmerman case, at least they had some rationale. They said that he was a fellow neighborhood watch volunteer and he was a friend of Zimmerman. And of course, in the Zimmerman case, he would constantly refer to Trayvon Martin as a hoodlum. Unsurprising given who he is, which I'm about to explain to you. And he kept saying in the Dunn case that Davis, the kid who got shot, was clearly the provoker, which is ridiculous. He didn't have a weapon, etc. I guess his music provoked his own murder. That's his outrageous claim. So who is this Taffy character who's defending Dunn and Zimmerman? Well, I've said in the past on the show that if you defend these guys, now Zimmerman's a little different actually, to be specific. If you defend Dunn, I said that you were a horrible individual. Well, it turns out I was right. He is a horrible individual. He is a guy who has said unbelievably racist things before. In fact, on air, Frank Taffy once said, you know, white racism is not America's biggest problem. I feel the biggest problem is education. There's a distinct gap between graduation rate of African Americans versus whites or Latinos in the country, and this was simply a matter of loud music, a man asking them to turn it down, and they did not oblige, and then it escalated. So, now this is not among the atrocious quotes, but look at that quote, where he says, no, it's not Dunn's fault for shooting at him 10 times. It's their fault for being uneducated. How do you know they're uneducated? Well, they're black. He said, I assume they're uneducated, and they had it coming because their uneducated folks played the music too loud, thereby leaving the white man no option but to murder them. Okay. If you're not convinced yet, I got more for you. Now, in the past, Frank Taffy, in his Stand Our Ground podcast, which is basically a white supremacist podcast, had said, I always say, this is about Nicole Brown and how all white women dating black guys should get the same fate. I always say, you lie down with dogs, you're going to get fleas, especially if they're black dogs. Okay. Now, we're not done with Frank Taffy yet. So Mother Jones ran this article about all the outrageous things that he has said, and Nancy Grace had him back on, and now finally did a good job of challenging him on the outrageous things that he said. Get a load of his lies, and then we'll show you actual audio from Frank Taffy and show you what he in fact did say. Watch.
Frank Taffy, you have adamantly defended George Zimmerman, and you have steadfastly defended Michael Dunn, and I'm wondering why you were hanging in there so staunchly. And it has recently, very recently, come to my attention about some very disturbing comments on your Twitter feed. Out to the control room, what was the comment we wanted to ask Frank about?
The only time a black life is validated is when a white person kills them. End quote.
No, it's not true. And I have a pending lawsuit against Mother Jones, by the way. I'm glad you brought that up.
There's also your alleged response to them. What's the response from the control room, please?
Quote, that minority group, they don't do anything productive for this country except for the NBA. And if it wasn't for the NBA, Joe, like I always say, our country would have the world's tallest garbage men. Thank God for the NBA. End quote.
That's not my Twitter account. I've already defended myself on that.
Because, Taffy, that is so
That's horrible.
And
that's horrible. That's not my Twitter account.
So
that's sometime from years back. Someone hacked into my account. So thank you for letting me get it out there.
Did they hack into your account, or that's not your Twitter account? Huh, that's interesting. Now, the reality is, those things were actually not tweets originally. They were audio from his podcast. And we have that audio. Oops. Here's Frank Taffy in his own words.
We're sick and tired of this bullshit this country where one minority group dominates and dictates what the majority is supposed to be doing. I don't think that's the way it works. And that minority group, they don't do anything productive for this country.
Well, look, I'm not going to say that they're controlling
Except for the NBA. And if it wasn't for the NBA, Joe, like I always say, our country would have the world's tallest garbage men. Okay? Thank God for the NBA.
Did someone hack into your mouth and make you say those things? So, gee, I wonder who defends Michael Dunn. What did I tell you? It's exactly guys like this that defend Michael Dunn. And by the way, HLN, you don't need balance in every case. You don't need someone to say Charles Manson is a good guy if you're going to have somebody on to say Charles Manson is a bad guy. You don't need somebody to come on and make Michael Dunn's or George Zimmerman's case. Now, look, there's sometimes a case to be made. The Zimmerman case was very hard to prove in a lot of ways inside the courtroom. I get that. I get the controversy around that. I didn't agree with the decision, but I understand it. Michael Dunn is an open and shut case. He was firing at the kids as they were trying to drive away. What part of that is stand your ground or self-defense? Right? You don't need a Michael Dunn guy for nonsense balance. And who are you going to get to defend him? There's only guys like this who always say, it's not about race. It's not about race. No. It's just that, he was concerned about protecting himself and his fiancée. All right, it's not about race. Here's more from Taffy.
It goes back to the premise that, I once said that the only time that a black life is validated is when a white person kills them. Okay? Other than that, we're part of the groove, man. It's okay to off 12 of us, and nobody cares. But I guarantee you that if I stormed into the local KFC with the AR-15 and offed about 12 of them, I don't think I'd make it out the front door.
No. It's never about race. Of course not. If you're still not convinced, well, boy, you're thick-headed. Okay, but I'll give you one more anyway. They had a debate on this brilliant podcast about whether Oprah was the N-word. The person arguing that she is Frank Taffy. Listen.
Hey, welcome. This is Frank Taffy to episode 8, I believe, of Standing Our Ground. I'm Frank Taffy, and I'm here with my co-host. I'm doing good. I'm actually in the parking lot of the KFC in beautiful downtown Sanford. I figured it'd be very apropos.
I don't know. Would Oprah Winfrey qualify as a nigger to you?
To me, she wouldn't.
I think she is.
Oh, Frank, you go first then.
Yeah, she's a nigger because she keeps spewing out all that bullshit. She goes over to Switzerland and she says that the lady didn't want to show her handbag because she thought, that she couldn't afford it. And she keeps just doing what she's doing. She keeps stirring the pot. She keeps trying to promote her boy Obama. Obama could do no wrong. It's birds of a feather. They flock together and stick together. And to me, she's a nigger. Oprah Winfrey's a nigger.
Oh, not at all.
She's a nigger.
Not at all.
It's funny about Oprah. It's white women that made her rich, isn't it? It wasn't the black people.
Yeah.
Go think about that shit.
Yeah. Perhaps HLN and all other TV shows that have this despicable clown on should think about that shit. All right. So, by the way, one more thing about Frank Taffy. You know how he calls black people criminals all the time? You heard it for yourself there. They're always shooting people up, etc. They're thugs. Frank Taffy has been arrested or faced criminal charges at least a dozen times, including drunk driving, stalking, domestic violence, child abuse. And the networks make no mention of his criminal record or white separatist ties before that last appearance with Nancy Grace. Who's the thug?